Welcome to the This Lyric, That Truth podcast. Welcome, Abby.
I am so excited.
I'm so excited to have you. I was just chatting with my 21-year-old, and she said, Mom, you got to do a better job of introducing people on the podcast. She's like, you know who they are, but I don't know who they are.
Yeah, here's a little growth area, Mom. Let me help you with that.
She did. I was like, okay.
I didn't ask for that, but sure. Thank you for offering that expertise, sweet 21-year-old.
Oh, yeah, sweet. She is a social media marketer, and so I think she was...
so you kind of know what you're talking about?
So I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about who you are and your family and what you do, and then we're going to get into the lyric you've chosen today.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to share about that. My name is Abby, and I am married to Dave. We've been married for about it will be 18 years. I got 3 babies, and
who are not babies.
They're not babies. They're 13, 10, and 9. And I work part-time as a hairstylist locally, and I volunteer a ton in the schools. I am an active, it feels really weighted to say worker outer girl, but like I'm really active in my body and how I do things. And I have very full days, but I love them. I'm not a sit-at-home kind of gal.
You're a doer.
I'm a doer. And I'm married to like the doer of all doers. So when I say, I ran 5 miles today and then I worked a bunch, and people are like, wow, you do a lot. I was like, I am the subpar in my house. My beloved does like 12 times more things than I do before I get out of bed.
And that works for you.
It does. And you are a morning person. And I'm so glad that you can see that. And I'm a night person because you marry your opposite.
Oh, I love that. Sometimes birds of a feather flock together, and sometimes opposites attract.
We have very similarities in like our we love a spreadsheet. We are a scheduled people. We are very... I don't know, on the ball about a lot of things, very proactive instead of reactive, but he is morning and I'm night.
My husband would love it if I would love a spreadsheet.
Oh.
I never met a spreadsheet I liked.
I don't usually understand them, but my line often is, honey, can you explain it to me like a 5th grader? I want to understand, but I don't really care past like a 5th grade level. He's like, okay. And then he does a great job of that. And I appreciate it, but I'm like, I really just don't care past that. I don't need that level of detail because he's an engineer and I tease him all the time of being a nerd. So I'm like, I just need a little less nerd and a little more basic person explanation.
That's incredible. One of the things that you really inspired me about, actually, let's start with the lyric because what you did that inspired me, and then you sent me the song that you want to highlight, came from that about God being in the details.
Yes. I am a detail person. And so the line in this, I actually sang the song in church like a couple months ago, and it really caught me even when I was singing it. God is in this story. God is in the details.
God is in this story. God is in the details.
And it goes on to like other beautiful words, but being a detail type A person, I liked remembering that God was a part of the little stuff, the nitty gritty, the stuff nobody sees or nobody cares about. And so that to me was really, even when I was singing, it was like, I'm a detail person and God created that heart in me to be a detailed person. And he's there too, because we expect things to be big and grandiose. And like when God does something, it's huge and it's awesome. But most of the things, right? Faith of a mustard seed, most of things are small and little. And those are just the everyday moments. And so that was one line from a lyric that I just thought, I could talk about that.
I heard something recently that said sometimes in the church we pursue fire and not oil.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I've been thinking about that so much is we pursue like the big dramatic and not the one foot in front of the other, faithful detail of life.
Sometimes.
The trudge of life sometimes. It kind of reminded me of that. One of the detail projects I know that you're involved in, our kids went to the same elementary school.
Yes.
They have one of the most amazing programs called The Walk Program.
The Walk
Program. First of all, explain what that is, how you're involved in it, and how you use that opportunity to pray over the kids.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked about this because it's something I'm really passionate about. The Walk Program at our school, is kind of designed for 6 weeks where the kids walk outside during their lunch recess for 30 minutes. And the goal is to get as far in distance as you can. In years past, it's kind of changed and evolved. Post-COVID, we actually had the local robotics team made a big machine for us. So now the kids have like fancy RFID cards and they just walk past this machine and just the magic of technology takes and just scans their lap so that everything's there. So I kind of had that up. This is my 2nd year. I have another full year where I'll probably be in charge, and then I'm hoping to hand it off well to somebody else moving forward, because this has been a very sustainable walk program. I mean, they did it 20 years ago even. So I'm just a person in it right now.
Back
But
when people were counting
yes,
laps
we
of
actually
kids.
handed out popsicle sticks, and every 5 popsicle sticks was a mile. So we track all these laps, and then so they walk Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then on Fridays, I get together some other volunteers, and we hand out little tiny tokens of like little feet or a little 5 or a little 10. And we track all their miles. And over 6 weeks this year, we had our highest number of miles, which was 44.6 miles in essentially 16 days.
Wow.
At 30 minutes a pop. So I figured out the average, and it was about like 2 3/4 miles every day at lunch these kids are running. And some kids hate the walk program. Like they hate it. Like they're like, Mrs. Z, this is the worst. Like, why are we doing this? And other kid, it's their personal Olympics. And so how I kind of work the details in, there's so much stuff behind the scenes. There's ordering the little tokens. There's tracking all the laps. When there's a hiccup with a machine, we got to figure out what to do with that. There's a lot of spreadsheets involved, actually, because all your data comes out in spreadsheets. But all the little details, the kids don't care about. The kids don't know about. They don't see. And so it is kind of one of those thankless jobs that I do, because that is the way I can serve. And I feel like I do well, like, because I am a detail person. But knowing that, like, when I had to write out each name for every kid in the school, to write their like total miles to celebrate it when it was done. And it was late at night, and there had been a lot of hiccups in my week. So I was like 11 o'clock at night, I'm sitting here writing these names out, and people offer to help. I do kind of turn it down on occasion because I am also a perfectionist, but I was writing them all out. I was like, what an honor it is to sit here and write down the name of every kid in this school. And so I sat in there. I was just like, it wasn't a big grand gesture, but it was like, just God be with this class. And I was able to just put my hands on a stack of papers with each kid's name on them and be with this class. And it was really fun to kind of reflect on that later and be like, that's such an honor and a gift, because the kids don't know I do that. The kids don't see that. And the details in that really helped me come back to that lyric. Like, God is in the details, the little things that he does to show up in the day-to-day, in the stuff nobody notices. But my heart to serve our school and those kids, it's there. Like, that's how I want to serve. And I found a lane that's good for me and how I can do those things. But that line from that, how, God is in the details. Like, there's a lot of details in that walk program that nobody sees, but I do it out of service for the Lord with a happy heart.
I hear a couple of things from that, because as we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, I am not a detail person. In fact, our producer, Abby, is the detail person of the podcast.
You got to have one somewhere.
I know. I mean, this whole thing was an idea that I had, but then I need her to do all the details to get it off the ground, order the cameras.
Well, and you have to have the detail person, because I tried really hard to make sure that when a volunteer wanted to show up, I just wanted them to show up and cheer for kids. I didn't want them to have to feel like, okay, well, now I have to do this, and now I have this. I'll take care of that. I will do those details, because when you're volunteering and you just want to be with your kid, you just want to stand there and cheer kids on. Like, that's the easy part. So I did, even in the little details, making sure that the people who aren't detail oriented, or who are a full-time working mom, that are like, I got an hour, can you help me? Yes, absolutely. Just show up. I'll do the little stuff. You can just do the fun stuff. So those are details that are important too.
Have you noticed how special it is for kids when their parents show up for that hour?
Oh, that's one of my favorite things, because a lot of parents don't tell their kids they're coming. And so I see them come running out the doors, and they, run with their fancy card lanyard, and, like, oh, hey. And I see them, and I know their next life, Mrs. Z, my mom's here. I said, I know. Did you see her? She's in the back, right? And they're like, yeah, I'm going to go. And they just kind of run. And other times parents show up and their kids want to run. And the parents are like, I'm just walking here for my health, I guess, because my kids won't walk with me. So that's always fun. But right, it just creates an opportunity where maybe parents don't always have the best options for volunteering, but hopefully, like, do you have an hour? Can you come just stand around the school and cheer kids on? I can, we can make that.
What would you recommend to parents that are listening in all manner of schools, that are the working parent, that only have the hour? Because that's usually me. My husband in our relationship is the one.
Your husband's helped many times.
Many times. I've never been to the walking program.
Yeah.
I have work, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't really realize I could contact somebody like you and say, oh, I can only volunteer this amount of time.
Yeah.
Can you work me in? You would be more than happy to help
absolutely.
somebody.
And I think some of that comes with being really intentional, because like, I am on the PTO board. I do a lot of things with this school, and we would love to find a way for you to help, but you've got to really clearly communicate with us what you have to offer. because there is a lot of working parents and a lot of like myself being a hairstylist. I have a wonky schedule. Sometimes I work at night. Sometimes I work in the morning. So just being very clear, like, I can do this really well, or I have an hour. Can you put me somewhere? Yes, but you have to like, here's the sign up sheet. Just tell me I can only help an hour and I can plan accordingly. But just that really like reaching out, because we as volunteer coordinators with anything that you have with volunteering, we're always asking for volunteers like all the time. And that's part of school. That's part of church. That's part of some of those things. But just being really clear, like, I would love to offer this, and reach out to someone and talk to someone and follow up, because there's a lot going when it comes to planning things like that. And in the details, sometimes things can get lost. So making sure, I've had like some parents are like, I'm a teacher. Like, I can't really, I'm at a different school. I'm like, okay, would you want to help with the movie night that's on a Friday night? Would you want to help on this, up on that? So just making sure that you reach out almost a little bit past your comfort zone, because like, I would love to help anybody help, but I need to know what you like to do. I'm not going to make you sell candy bars if you hate food and you want to be walking.
Now, I want to sell the candy bars.
Yeah, I do sell candy bars too at Fun Night. I was like, I'll do concessions. Thank you.
That's where I would shine. I would shine.
I'm here for snacks.
I think that what is profoundly sad about the state of volunteering, as now I'm coming at this from a pastor's wife.
Yep. You're
You're coming at it from school PTO. How many percentage of parents are volunteer? It's usually like
what does
5,
it say? Like, 5% does 100% of the stuff.
5% does 100%.
Yeah. We have our carnival night is like our fun night coming up. And I just look at the volunteers. I'm like, I know our school does show up last minute, so I try not to worry about it. But at the same point, I'm like, guys, we can't do it without you. And I know it's not how you want to spend a Friday night. I'm very aware. But if somebody doesn't do it,
I have to.
Yeah. And there's times like I kind of joked. I was like, we're not going to have the pick your nose game. Nobody signs up because there's only so many people. So it is
Let's
frustrating.
Explain the pick the nose game. This hands down is my favorite, my kids' favorite, not my favorite, my kids' favorite at every fun night.
Yep, just up that big nose. It's so funny. All the jokes, the booger jokes, and that's the fun part of working in a school. Like in my professional life, I have very different jokes that I have at school. Yeah,
the pick the nose game.
Like,
is not
Mrs. Z, did you see what I did? I was like, I know, right? You're awesome. Like, look how fast I am. Like, you're great. I'm like, all right. Okay.
So I also love that you thought to yourself, having a stack of every kid's name in the school. Now, I'm just going to say this. You are a Christian person with kids in a public school.
Absolutely.
So am I. But you take the opportunity to do what you can in praying for all of the kids. They're covered.
Yep. And I learned for years I did Moms in Prayer with our local school. And as my work schedule changed, I wasn't able to get there. But some of those rhythms kind of like, when we did Moms in Prayer, we'd pray over each kid one time throughout the year by name. It would be like Johnny B. Not even like a full name, just, for those safety things. But so I have a history of praying over all the kids. And so as I was writing their name, I can truthfully picture their faces a little bit more, but I could just be like, I know this classroom. I can picture the kids in it and just, dear Lord, be with this class. Because I don't know the needs of all the class. And, you have a very mixed bag in each classroom of what the needs are for the kids and what kids who are very well resourced. You don't always know. But having that chance to be like, okay, I have 400 kids here. Dear Lord, be with this school. Be with the kids that I just wrote their names down, whatever they need, because I don't know.
That's what stood out to me. Another side of what you do, which is really fun, is you have this Instagram page or social media page.
I call myself a wannabe.
You're not a wannabe at all. We'll link up to it in the show notes if you want to follow Z Mama Loves.
Z Mama Loves.
Because did this account just come from you being a hairstylist? You just sharing with people products that you love, things that you love?
Yeah, I guess it kind of came from a place for a little bit of like, I wanted to do something and do it scared. I'm very much a comfort person. Like I would prefer to go to the same place for vacation every year because I know where the grocery store is and I know how to get there and all those things. And I really wanted to just try something. And I knew that taking that jump was like, just try it and see what happens. So when Z Mama Love started, it was definitely hi guys, my 3 people who are following me. I'm going to try this thing and I'm going to tell you about things I love. And it was a very nerve-wracking thing. And now it's turned into something where I can share many different parts of my life. That's who I am as a person. I'm a very open book. But it's been really fun to then like build different relationships. I actually invited somebody to church last week or a couple weeks ago, and she's like, "Oh, we might totally come." I was like, "You can. We kind of sit in the same spot because I'm a person of routine, so we sit in the same spot. But you're welcome." And so it's just kind of opened up little different things, but yet still kept on a very, I like to think, small and authentic size. I mean, I don't have 10,000 followers. I don't have any authentication. It's just me. I'm just a lady with some kids, and I want to tell you about this really cool vest I just got.
Well, speaking of which, I have it with me.
I almost wore it today to be dorky so we could match.
I wanted to be dorky. Although, like, I'm really not broad-shouldered, right?
But it's got the big build.
Yeah, I got to show it to you.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're just listening to this on the podcast,
just picture it in your heart.
She posted a link to this.
And it was super on sale. It was like $130 and it was for like $30.
$30.
Yeah.
Nike vest with kind of like wing-a-dings on the side, which I thought were really cool.
Yeah. It keeps your shoulders dry if it's raining.
So I bought that from the link. And that's where I saw you. And I love that. Keep doing that. Keep encouraging people in the everyday. It's not pointing people to yourself when you said, I have a stack of kids I'm praying. Because what that did is it sparked me to think, oh, my youngest is in 6th grade, right? Yeah. How can I be praying over his middle school?
Yeah, I'll say when I was a little girl, my parents they would have our class list in our bedroom. And so every night when we did goodnight prayers, we would go through different people which brought a lot of parenting conversations of like, that's not someone we love to spend time with, but we still pray for them. Mm-hmm. And so that's been long standing. So that just felt like a really natural thing for me because I've been doing it since I was a little girl. I mean, I'll admit I haven't done it with my kids yet. So, I still have growth opportunities.
We can start there. I love that. You got to tell everybody, our son's, your oldest, he's
1 year older.
1 year older.
Yes,
that's
1 year
right.
older. Yes.
You got to tell a story about your favorite Zane story. This is my 12-year-old.
There's 2 Zane stories that I have, but the one that you're thinking of, Zane and my oldest Archer were in kindergarten together, and Zane was in my group at the zoo. And he was like, yeah, we got to get those goats in our backyard. I was like, excuse me, what? He's like, yeah, we just like hunt goats in our backyard. And part of me was like, I thought he lived in town. Like I was trying to like put a little reference to it, but he said it so confidently that I had to send you a message. I'm like, are you goat hunting
in your backyard?
In your backyard? Like
downtown.
And he was like, you were so sweet. You're like, that's my boy. I love him so much. He's so cute. And I actually have a walking program story. He would keep touching the machine.
Of course.
And I was just like, hey, knock it off. Hey, no more, please. And finally I was like, Bud, we've talked about this. And he gave me this face like, what? Did we? I don't even remember. And it was the most genuine. And I was like, I know you're full of it. But at the same point, his face was like, oh, no, we're not touching it today. He's like, oh my God, you're so cute.
A neighbor of mine, when he was about that age, had him over for a play date. And she's like, pizza cool? And he goes, no, at my house, we only eat salads, but I'm allergic to water. She texted me like,
oh, what a creative soul you have.
He's allergic to water? No, he's not allergic to water.
No, not at all. Not at all. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wonderful. These kids keep us on our toes. How you and your work as a cosmetologist, I'm interested in this because I have a daughter going into the field.
So great.
And she's loving it. She's in school right now.
It's very fun because it's a very hands-on way to learn if you like it. Like if you don't like it, you kind of know on the front side and you can bail if you need to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, whoops.
Like, I don't really like this, actually. I didn't know people had so many moles on their heads. It's a real thing. It's real.
But there's a lot of counseling involved, too.
Oh, mm-hmm. There's a lot of spaces where it's like, would you like to talk about thing or would you not? And I was actually just sharing with a friend. I was like, I try to hold that space for what people want it to be. I can fill space with words anytime, any day. And I had one client, she was like, would you actually just tell me like about your kids? I was like, sure, I'd love to. And so for a half hour, I just talked to her about my kids because she could leave the world behind. Mm-hmm. So it does create a little bit of a safe space, which is outside of the haircut itself. It's just a safe space in my chair. And we can, joke and laugh and have a great time. But we can also just be like, do you want just a minute to just sit?
No, some people like a quiet appointment, right?
I can't do that. That's not how I am designed. Nope, that is not something I offer. I could maybe sing to you if you would prefer that, but I no. Quiet's not usually what I'm known for around my salon.
How do you pick up? Because I think all of us could learn. I was talking to a coworker yesterday about how to be a better conversationalist.
Oh.
And we were talking about how our instinct when somebody shares a story is to share one right back. And you feel like you're identifying with what they're saying, but better to ask follow-up questions.
that's actually kind of a hairstylist skill. And to some of it, it's because we don't remember what you're talking about. And it's not that we're not paying attention, but I've done hair for 20 years. So I have people that I'm like, what do they work again? Like what? And so they start telling a story and I have to ask questions because I'm trying not to confuse you with the other lady I did last week and she's going on vacation and you're talking about your vacation. I think it's similar, but like, and now where is that again?
Okay.
And, just more questions because for me, most often, and maybe I need to work on my listening skills, but I'm like, I don't remember where you're going on vacation. I don't remember. Oh, your daughter's getting married. Yeah. How's that planning going? Just because there's so many people that sit through your chair too, that it's like, I can usually remember a detail or two.
Yeah.
And then I have to work harder to pull the other details out because I don't want to be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
I don't remember this at all. And they're like, we talked about this. Like, did we? I got nothing. So a lot of times I do have to pull questions out just to get a little bit more of the story. And then it reminds me, oh, right, this is okay. Yes, she has this going. Okay, that makes a little more sense. But I'm maybe not as great at that in my personal life, but at work, I do have to be like, they think I know what they're talking about. I really gotta
What's your trick
get
then?
more.
Because this happens to me too. People will start with the detail and I'm like, got
you try not to blink so hard with doe eyes.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
So it's asking the follow-up question.
Yeah. And just and real and vague questions too. Just like, oh, and even I do it with my kids. They're like, oh, tell me more about that. Because I'm like, I don't remember talking about that. Did we talk about that? He's like, Mom, you said I could. I was like, did I? Where was I standing when I said that? Where was
I
that?
have a friend I love to be around. And it's because she's always asking questions and follow-up
I
questions.
have friends like that in my life.
And she's genuinely interested. I want to be more like that.
Same. I have a coworker who does my hair and I always leave and I go, we talked about me the whole time. We didn't even talk about you. And I was at her house last night. I'm like, when did this happen? What are you doing here? And she's like, oh yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I was like, again, we spent another half hour and I was like, you make me feel so special. Yeah. And I hope that I can create that to other people. I'm probably better at it with kids than I am adults, which is why I don't mind being in a school. I'm like, great, tell me all the things. Sure, let's talk about it. Like I was walking down the hall. I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm going to make copies. What are the copies for? Well, it's Lunch Lady Appreciation Day. Oh, great. Do you know how to use the copier? Because kids will tell you anything. And although I don't want to work with kids per se as a job, I do enjoy that aspect because I try to make them special. I should work harder at doing it with adults, but I know what you're saying. Like when someone genuinely listens and just like wants to know about your life. And I have gracious clients because they're like, how are the kids? How's middle school? How's this? And they genuinely ask about me. And so I have the joy of having people in my chair who care about me as a person as well. It's not just the chick who cuts your hair.
Tell me about your brand new experience of being a travel ball mom.
Oh, I was sharing it on Instagram. No one told me how fun it was. I was under the impression
I totally agree. I thought
everyone was like, this is the worst, but we do it anyway because we love our kids.
So did I. I almost had such a negative, like I tried to avoid it like the plague.
This is our first year.
It's going to run
13.
your life. It's going to run your family.
And I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah.
And Archer joined a team, which wasn't like a local team. So we didn't know any of the other families. So I obnoxiously introduced myself. I'm like, hi, I'm Archer's mom. We're the new ones. We're the only new ones that you guys don't know. And so I kind of just pushed myself because people really excite me and I love to be a part of people. But it was so much more fun than I planned. I was like, I didn't realize this. And I said to my mom recently, I'm like, Archer played basketball and he played soccer as well for school. And I was like, I had no idea I would be so invested in 7th grade soccer. Like I actually bought your daughter's sweatshirt because she had our local soccer team sweatshirt. I bought that off of her. I was like, great. Now I have the swag. Yeah. I need to wear the right things. And I was like, I had no idea this would be so great. But it is the funnest thing, just watching your kid learn and grow. And baseball, like, is a game of failure, right? I think we were talking with my sister, and it was like 70% or professional league baseball strike out 70% of the time or something like that. And so it's such a growth opportunity sport. Yeah. And I have a son who just things come pretty easily to him. So when he doesn't do well at sports, there's such great learning opportunities. But I'm like, let's slow our roll and realize like we're not always going to crush it out of the park. But watching him show up, he just started pitching more recently, and just the pride and the smile that even when he loses, he's still got a smile coming out of the dugout. I'm like, this is what it's made for. All the smiles.
How did you worm yourself in with the moms? Because when I was watching your Instagram story, I was convicted because we have a couple of new moms on our team. Yeah. And I didn't make an effort.
Oh, I did. I shared that on Instagram. I'm like, go talk to that mom. Yeah. And she might not want to talk to you, but she'll appreciate the hello. And so I try really hard to do that, especially like at school and stuff too. Like a new mom was like, I'm like, kindergarten moms come in, I'm like, how can I help? Here's my phone number. Just call me if you need me. But I kind of was like the first game, I just sat there with my husband and it was our youngest birthday. So we were trying to like make him feel special. So I was just handing out ones left and right for cotton candy and Prime and like, sure, go get more at the concessions. I don't care. But then one mom actually introduced herself to me, and we had a mutual friend. And then she introduced me to another mom, and then introduced to another mom. So I'm like, you don't even have to do all the work. If one person says hi, that can extend the next conversation, and just, gave me a little bit more confidence as a new mom. Like, oh, I was talking with so-and-so. And they're like, oh yeah, my son is this and my son is that. And because Dave and I are type A's, we wrote down everyone's name and number so that it was like, oh, right. Okay. Bob and Jimmy are, okay, they go here and and
Third
like Dave's in
base.
his phone typing, and we're like, oh my God, we are such weirdos. But when we go in 2 weeks, I'll be like, Dawn, great to see you again. Right? It's Dawn. Yeah. Dawn. Okay. Hey.
Now,
Hi, bestie.
this is the kind of mom I am. And I was like, oh, Cece, you got to work on this. So last week, there is a mom's group text.
Okay.
Who my husband Dave should really be in.
Your daughter told me about this.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
He's like, get me on the mom's group text because you don't pay any attention ever to anything going on. Is it the green hat, the blue hat? I never know. My kid showed up in the green hat. It was the blue hat on Sunday.
Oh, for shame.
It was totally on me. And I was like, oh, it was in the mom's text. And I totally didn't do it.
Like even all those people I don't want to talk to? Okay.
So then he texted me. He's like, you got to get on the mom's group chat and we got to get a ride home from Zane. From practice. I was like, okay, so I can do that. So I texted out, hey, can anyone bring Zane home? One mom checks in, absolutely happy to do that. I don't have her name.
It's a phone number.
So then I have to say, because I can't tell Zane he's going home with blank kid. I was like, just look around and see who's waving you over the
I'd be
car.
like, there will be a safe person for you to ride home with. They will be offering you a ride. Feel free to take it. And then tell me who that was when we get home.
And the child's name and what number he is on your team. So I had to eat crow and text back, I'm so sorry. I don't have your name.
But everybody has that sometimes. Everybody's be like, I didn't save your number. I'm sorry. And like I said before, though, like some people aren't social people. And I understand that. I'm a super social person. I am married to maybe not a social person. And I have a daughter who's just wants to sit and read her book the whole time. But, it's respectable to be like, it's okay. Like I'm good over here by myself. But just making sure people feel included. Like if you want, we're all over here. You don't have to come over. Yeah. So, don't feel too much pressure. If you want to be like, I'm just going to be over here, that's okay too.
Right.
That's okay too.
But like write the mom's name down. When the initial group text comes out and it's the one
you're like, sorry, I joined late. Who is this exactly?
Well, I've been a part of the team for years.
Oh, okay.
It's Dave, the detail guy. Who is like, make sure that everybody has a name.
And you're like, do you have a phone number for this person that you can tell me who it is?
Oh, man. And now so I thought I got to introduce myself to this woman who
thank you for bringing my son home so safely, so willingly.
And I'm like scanning and trying to figure out who it is.
Like anyone's trying to catch my eye? Anybody? I'm just looking. I'll just stand here looking very available to come talk to.
I think that's part of it. The other thing, what I like about you, you don't seem to get too embarrassed.
I do not get embarrassed. I recently said something really silly at a PTO meeting, and the president was standing up talking and doing her things, and I had some flippant comment, and I literally watched one of my friends who you also know, and she was like, oh my goodness, and she starts laughing, and I was like, oh, and other women started laughing. I think they were embarrassed for me. I was not embarrassed. And I was like, well, it's true. Like, I'm just curious. I just want to know, except it fell out of my mouth out loud because I'm also a verbal processor, so I only hear things when they come out of my mouth. And I said to a friend later, I was like, was that okay? And she goes, that's totally things you would say. And it wasn't inappropriate. It was just like, that is so random. Why would you yell that out loud? Because I don't get embarrassed.
I think that's part of this thing where we don't really reach out to other people in our community because we're embarrassed we're going to get their name wrong or we forgot to plug in their number or all of these things. I was sitting at the game on Sunday. The sun was really bright. And I had grabbed a sunscreen stick from the sunscreen closet.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there and I've got two moms on either side of me and I'm putting this all over my face, this clear sunscreen stick. Okay. And they start laughing. They're like, do you know what is on your face?
And like, I thought it was sunscreen.
And they said, it is like bright white. You're putting a bright white substance all over your face. And I just kept, I had no idea.
You're like, no, this isn't good. This isn't good. Okay.
I thought it was just clear. Now, I was a little it was an embarrassing
Yeah.
situation, but
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Rub in the sunscreen, laugh it off.
Well, and
go on with
I
your
love
life.
to be silly. So I was like, oh my goodness, that was really dumb.
Yeah,
Whoops.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's
And
me.
I joke with my kids. I'm always like, I'm such a Midwesterner. All those like reels that with like Midwesterners that they say "oop" all the time.
Oh,
And I catch myself saying it all the time. I was like, oh my, I'm quite a statistic on that. And I love to, be a little old grandma. Oops, there. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. My husband always just rolls his eyes. He's like, you are just an old grandma. I was like, yeah, it's fine. My grandmas say that. They're like, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
that's
But yeah, you just got to
amazing.
be the silly. Because I know like some people, they don't love the attention. They don't love all of that. So if me being silly draws attention off of you to make you more comfortable, I will absolutely do that.
Totally.
Wholeheartedly.
And I use that with my kids. Like embarrassing things happen.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. Just own it. Move on.
Own it. Move on.
Own it. Move on.
Nobody else is thinking about the sunblock.
Yep.
It's only me at night
Yep.
going, I can't believe
You're like,
I
what
did just
happened there?
that."
Man, the wheels fell off. My
As
goodness.
we wrap up our conversation, what do you wish people would understand about volunteering
Ooh.
or being on the PTO? What do you wish the average general parent would understand that we don't realize?
I think we actually had it this year. I reached out to a full-time working mom, like full-time every day, 8 to 5 kind of thing. And I said, hey, would you join us on the board? And she's like, I work full-time. And I said, well, I know, but you have so much to offer and there's flexibility, right? Like there's some meetings you need to be a part of, but there's also, you bring a whole different perspective being a full-time working mom, helping us remember like, no, don't start at 5 because everyone's still at work. Wait till 5:30 or 6. And just things I don't think about because either I work super late at night or I'm off earlier in the day just because of how that works. And so understanding that even what you're doing, you can still bring your life and it has value. And just because you're working, and if you're the mom that's like, I absolutely do not want to, that's okay. But if you can just step in and be like, I have this hour to offer, I have this passion, or I enjoy this thing, push in a little bit because it's hard to get volunteering. But when you show up, like just like with any sort of service, you get more than you gave every time. And so, I mean, I feel like I give a lot to the walk program, but like walking into school and knowing that Mrs. Z, are we going to walk extra day? Mrs. Z, I love that. And I'm a consistent part of the kids like schooling, but I don't work there. I kind of joke. I'm always like, I can hug kids because I don't have to follow the rules. I mean, you do have to follow the rules, but I always just be like, would you like a hug?
Yeah.
I fell. I'm like, do you want a hug?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't like,
Yeah.
I'm just a mom here. I get to just be myself and I don't have as many requirements. But coming into volunteering, if you're going to volunteer, figure out what you want to do. I don't do our carnival night. That I'm there and I volunteer, but I don't plan it. I don't draw in the people. I don't get the food trucks. That's not my thing. I picked my passion, which is keeping kids moving their bodies. And so then I found something I really wanted to do and I was more excited to do it. So there's sometimes where you just have to show up and do it. But if you can find something that you're more passionate about in volunteering, like I had to say no to going on a field trip because I'll be setting up for this all day for the PTO. So it does have some costs, but I want to do that. I want to be available. I want to do something that I'm passionate about well, and then trust that the other people that are volunteering are going to do their things well. So you don't have to do it all. But, the more people you have on the team, the easier it is.
So good. What did you learn about starting Z Mama Loves and putting yourself out there with your 3 followers?
Yeah.
And just being like, I'm going to put basically you're putting your art
Yeah.
out there in the world.
And me.
And just went for it without starting with this big thing. And what have you learned through that?
There's been a lot of, I think we're going on like just about 4 years maybe. And there's a couple things where I learned like, this is just me and it doesn't have to be the big scale to have value. Right? Like a lot of my followers are just local people or family or friends. And so I don't need 10,000 followers and the check mark behind it because this is not my job. This is what I do for fun. It's not it provides a little bit of income with the links. I probably made like 87 cents when you bought that vest. Appreciate that. But it doesn't have to be huge. It can just be little in what I have to offer. So I never want it to be something that stresses me, but it was something that I led scared and I have learned so many things. And I allowed myself to be like, I don't know how to make a reel. I'm 41 years old. Like old people don't do this. And I kept trying and I kept trying. And then I posted 1 and now I posted 2. And I'm like, okay, I have more. So I've learned skills along the way that I didn't have before. But I actually would like make a reel about the walk program. I'd have like a little video of all the kids' feet walking by because you can't have their faces,
Right.
but all those little feet walking by. It was like, that's really cool. So I learned new things. And I also just, when I love something, I love it. So I would joke, like, if 1 is good, 7 is better. So I was like, if I like it, then maybe you would like it and you might want one. So just sharing some of those things has been fun. So I found new things, but also just found some relationships, and people were like, this is really fun. Or like, during COVID, there was a time where I literally sat in my room and I just cried. And I was like, I am so lonely. This is terrible. My husband gets to go to work and I'm home with these kids who learn in a language I don't speak.
Yeah.
And I have a son who needs speech. And I was just sad and lonely. But I shared that with people, and they totally were like, I hear you. I got you. And if I can offer that encouragement on the day they're feeling like that, but I'm feeling good, hopefully that helps and I can bring joy. I try not to use toxic positivity,
Right.
like, because I am a positive person,
Right.
but I want to be realistic and be like, this is awesome. Or sometimes, yeah, we just have to change our attitude and be like, okay, here we go. Let's just change our attitude and let's get going. So I do try to offer some of those things too, because that's just genuinely who I am as a person. Like, I'm pretty positive. I always joke that I'm like, if it's, someone's like, well, there's 20% chance of rain. I'm like, there's an 80% chance of sun. It'll be fine. Get a raincoat.
What it would be one of your best organizing tips, or like you
Ooh.
being God is in the details, the lyric we're talking about today from Katy Nichole, God is in the details. I'm not a detail person. It is something I need to grow in because I can't just use that as an excuse.
No.
Kind of like, oh, I work full time.
Yeah. Well, and you can't be someone else, but you can't just be stagnant in where you are. Like you said, like growth.
Right. So what is something, is it a list every day?
Oh, I have multiple calendars, which sounds just neurotic, but I have my scratch calendar where I write everything down and just scratch it off because I like a list. But truthfully, I get a lot of teasing from my friends, but my husband and I sit down every Sunday night and we go through the week and who's driving who and what the kids have, where we're going to be. Okay, I have to be to work. And so my husband does dance and piano. And then last night I was like, there is a game for one of my nephews. If you want to try to get there. He was like, we'll see. But he got there because I communicated, hey, there's a game for the nephew and it's on the calendar. It didn't have a day. It didn't have a time. And I was like, if you can get there, call my sister and you could make it. I don't know what the details are. But sitting down and just going through the week and having that shared calendar. We're big shared iCalendar people. My husband is a very big hunter. And so when we were newly married, I'm sure there was times where I said, yes, he could go hunting and would completely forget and then be fussy that he was hunting because I didn't remember saying yes. And so he has to invite me to his hunting on my calendar and I have to accept it so that I know if I accepted it, I said he could go. And that saved us many marital fights over the years because he will hunt as much as possible. And so at least I know, like, having that communication and having that visibly shared calendar, that to me has been a lifesaver in my marriage, in my parenting. I even like put my kids' baseball games with the location and invite my parents so they can see the location. So I don't have to call them and be like, well, it's here, but
That's good.
it's a great one. And they just decline and say, nope, they can't come, or different things. And so for me, the organized shared calendar with the invites, like, yes, you need to be there. And we're working on that with Archer. He has now like the Apple Watch. And so he has a calendar. He's like, can I go to so-and-so's house? I'm like, well, check your calendar, right? Like, time and responsibility is going to be more on you as you get older and less on me. So I can approve it, but like, why don't you take a look and see? And he's like, oh, yeah, I got that. And I got that. And I was like, so do you have the time to go? And he's like, not really. I'm like, okay, great. So just time management and using that shared calendar. That's my favorite thing to always suggest to people. Be like, just use a shared calendar. If it's Google Calendar, iCalendar, whatever, but just having that shared so you both see the same things. I do not see my husband's work day. I don't know when his meetings are. I don't care. But like, I know that he can see there's piano lessons and it got moved from Monday to Wednesday. So if it's on the calendar for Wednesday, and I said to him, I said, are you going to take the cover off the camper this weekend? He goes, yeah, it's on the calendar. I said, no, it's not on the calendar, but we talked about it. He's like, oh, you're right. I would put it on the calendar. Like, that's how specific we
You
are.
would put take cover off the camper on your calendar.
Yep. It just, I mean, and it's just those little details because that requires him to go down to the campground. He's going to be gone for a while. And if there was expectations of him with the kids or of driving, I needed to remember, oh, right, Dad, Dave's gone.
That's good.
So we do a lot of calendar details. That's like my favorite thing.
Thank you for sharing your enthusiasm.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for the way that you vulnerably share your life on See Mama Loves. Thank you for the inspiration in praying over the stack of the kids' names.
It's my honor.
Thanks for inviting us to look at how we can volunteer better.
there's a place for everybody. You just got to reach out.
That's me. I'm the one.
Yeah.
I work full time. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Dave will do it.
Yeah.
You know?
And Dave's great. He kept the kids from hitting the stop sign. He encouraged them. It was great. I missed him this year. I was like,
That's who
Dave.
that's really who you want at Walk Program,
Yeah.
honestly.
There was a day where I told my husband, I was like, you are being voluntold. You have to come. And last year he just like shoveled the whole time because there was ice everywhere. And the principal was like, he does not need to do that. I'm like, he doesn't actually want to be here. So if we could just let him shovel, that would be great. So he just shoveled ice the whole time. So, I mean, even if you don't want to show up, you could find, you want to sweep the parking lot, knock yourself out. There's something for everybody.
I'm going to wrap it up with this in terms of volunteering. Show up or shut up.
Yep.
Right?
If you don't help, you don't get an opinion.
I love it. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.